I've been concerned about the environmental cost of NFTs. I just wondered if there's anything going on in the space where people are attempting to mitigate for, or do you know there's anything that can be done with regard to that?
100%. I happen to have some numbers to hand because I was doing something about this today. So, Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain, lovely, wonderful, innovative, the Stephenson's rocket of our blockchain and cryptocurrency world, equally puffing out a huge amount of smoke. I think that the current estimate, so as of literally yesterday or today when I was looking, is 1,200 and something kilograms of CO2 per Bitcoin transaction. So it has a massive carbon footprint, which is, people are trying to mitigate that by using renewable energy, but it is probably not in the long term possible to do that because there is absolutely no, however many renewable miners you've got, there's still an incentive to switch on your coal-powered station, the coal-fired power station. So that Bitcoin is a really special case, and it needs to get to a point where there is no incentive to switch on those coal-fired stations, and that will come when the price is too low to make a profit. So it's I love Bitcoin to bits, but it's just not sustainable. You're absolutely right. So then we go to Ethereum. So Ethereum also works on the same idea that you're expending energy to confirm the transactions. Now it's a much smaller blockchain, and it's a much more efficient blockchain, and it's using around about 140 kilograms of CO2 per transaction. So every NFT mint, every buy or sell, it has that footprint. However, the estimate for when it moves to proof of stake, which should happen this year, is that that will drop by 99%. And that's consistent with proof of stake blockchains. So when you start looking at a proof of stake blockchain, totally different thing, because nobody's fighting to do that confirmation. It is it's a push, not a pull. So, or the other way around. The chain is actually going, right, who can confirm this block? Who's got the most tokens and is free at the moment? You have. And that is how they're randomizing. So there's nobody fighting. There's simply a message going out and going, who's going to vote on this? So I think Polygon, Algorand, slightly different proofs, obviously, because Algorand's working on something different there. But they are, so Algorand is pure proof of stake, Polygon proof of stake. You're looking at 0.00550 kilograms of CO2. So once you get into proof of stake and you get into the really fast blockchains, the ones that are doing 4,500, 5,000 transactions per second instead of 7, you have much more efficient blockchains. You're at the same par as cloud computing, ERP systems, and so on and so forth.
Kind of standing on from that one, currently, because of like the price of gas fees, the price of minting an Ethereum-based, ERC20-based NFT is insane.
It is,
like
crazy.
Hundreds of dollars per like copy of it, and
yes.
I just feel like that's such a big barrier to entry to like an amateur musician or like a lo-fi artist or someone like that. So, like, how do you feel about that? And is proof of stake going to sort that out, or is that just always going to be an issue?
Proof of stake will, I think, sort that out to a great extent. The thing with Ethereum is that they decided to price the transactions according to the functions in the Solidity contract that governs whatever the transaction is. So, whatever the transaction is, whether it's 0.00001 of an ETH or a million, it's still going to cost the same. I agree that it's a massive barrier. I have stuff sitting in MetaMask and I can't touch it because I can't move it anywhere. I had a client pay me 250 DAI for something, I can't do anything with it. It's really annoying. So next time I got to put it onto the Polygon mainnet, but it takes a bit of nous to actually understand how to get stuff onto the Polygon mainnet and how to operate on there. So I do wonder whether the likes of Tezos, Solana are going to take the NFT market.
Yeah, I think Phantom looks really interesting with this kind of flat fee of like $1 per mint or something.
Yeah, it's worth looking behind it and seeing exactly where that flat fee comes from, because the fees on Ethereum were really reasonable when we first all started.
Yeah.
It was costing me 8 cents to mint a CryptoKitty,
I think one of the biggest like risks of Ethereum as well is that it's like using the gas fees as an excuse for profitability because it's trying to become like a profitable blockchain this year, and it just seems like it's kind of like a vicious circle if you get off the flip that.
Yeah, Ethereum's interesting because it's more centralized than you think. I love Ethereum. I have every confidence that it is going to continue to be an excellent platform, but I do wonder whether the consumer side is going to move, and the business side that is comfortable using Ethereum as a platform for very big systems, supply chains, and so on and so forth, will be the major. That's off the top of my head, and you're nodding, so I must be on the right. But that's the way I see it. I think it's going to become too complex. I think some of the side chains are going to sort of have their day, and I think the new layer ones will definitely move forward because they're faster as well. I mean, Ethereum 25 transactions per second. Avalanche 4,500. It's a tough one.
Do you have any data off the top of your head with proof of history, how much, CO2 in comparison to...
It's pretty low, proof of history. I'm digging into that one. It's quite interesting because they claim huge transaction speeds, for instance. So I think they're claiming 65,000 transactions per second, but a lot of that includes the actual history being built up. So it's not really terribly accurate. So you could divide down whatever the carbon footprint is by 65,000, but you're not going to get an accurate figure that way. So it is low. It is designed to be low, but how low? I don't have a figure.
But any thoughts on the impact of quantum?
Always. So the security of the blockchain is in the fact that you have transactions in a chain in a block, and that block is chained to the next one. So you've always got the reference to the previous one. And because you're using cryptography to represent each block, if you change something in the block, then the hash of that block will change, which means that the next block that's got the reference in, the hash of that block will change, and then the next block, the hash of that block will change. So if you're going to change something, you've got to be able to go fast enough to confirm all the new blocks with your change in, and you've got to be able to beat the system. So there is an argument that if you have much faster processors, if you were to stick a quantum computer to beat the miners up the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, then it would win. But everyone's going to be moving forward in that way, is one thing. And the other thing is, and I think it's around the security of wallets. I believe there is an elliptical encryption that will resist quantum breaking on wallet addresses and private keys. So I think it's nuanced, and there may be a threat to smaller chains, and there may be a threat if there is a determined bad actor, and they're there in time to be faster than everybody else. But it's not as big a threat as you think.
What's the most evil thing you think someone could do with an NFT? Oh, that's a good one.
Oh my word! I think everyone's already done all the evil things with NFTs, sort of booby trapping them and dropping them into people's wallets and nicking all their stuff. I mean, there's some really nasty things that go on with NFTs. Yeah, ask me afterwards. I'm sure I'll come up with something.
Just a quick one. So I'm in creative industries, and so you kind of touched on that earlier, like creativity and the artists and all that. So just from my point of view, I guess, first of all, as a creative, how do I get super rich out of NFTs? And then sort of drawing off that, what's the role of the creativity of that? We say like NFTs, artists and creators brought loads of people in, but what's later on for it? Because it doesn't seem to be like much of a continuous conversation. Post people, everyone's talking about people, and that's it. We're done with the creatives now.
No, the creatives are still going. The thing is, we had an enormous rush of people going, $69 million, I'll have some of that. And that's not how it works. It's got to be quality. It's got to be fashionable, because that's how physical fine art works as well. It's got to have some sort of rarity value. So really, 10,000 of the same generative basis, yeah, okay, what does it do? I think it may have to have utility in some way. So even if it's something as simple as I want to print that out and put it on my wall, I don't like bored apes. I wouldn't want to have one and print it out and put it on my wall. Axes, on the other hand, I've got an axe here, I'll put them on my wall. So yeah, I think that there is a bubble of people being daft and going, oh, I need some money, and that's not going to work. It's going to burst, and then the decent NFTs and the things that people value will come through and be long-term and sustainable in all ways.
Let's think 5-10 years down the line. What, if any, is the application of the technology in perhaps a more socially performative, disruptive, but also beneficial manner? So, and I think it's fine to say that a lot of this tech starts in creative, because that's where creativity plays.
Yes.
Your gaming point around immersive is the same route to that. But what's the application of that technology down the line when it's evolved better? Can we use it in a more publicly beneficial manner? Or is it just going to be a bit of a storm in a 2022 teacup that we're all going to look back and laugh at next year?
Oh, there is a storm. It's just that we're going to come through it. There's so many directions you could take that, and a lot of really impressive projects going on. What I would say is there is a real Western white men running the metaverse thing going on. Who owns all of the infrastructure? Who owns all of the companies? Who are the VCs financing? We need to get away from that bias and start encouraging creators and businesses and innovators and gamers on every continent, in every community, because the whole concept of everyone being connected gives that opportunity. I would love to see that being realised. I don't know if it will be, because the money is all very concentrated. And what we have seen is that you can create little economies in the metaverse. We've got a little almost proof of concept economy in a game called Axie Infinity, and that has been putting bread on the table for people in a few countries, notably the Philippines, during COVID. And while it's not everybody's dream to work playing a game for 6 hours a day in order to buy food, it's an option to look at how could our time and our skills and our assets that we own in a virtual world give us an income in the real world. So I think that's what we need to explore in the future.
Do you have any idea on how we could integrate real-world applications for NFTs in, say, asset ownership, supply chain, within the legal sector as well?
Oh, loads of fun stuff. Hasn't the Law Commission just said that smart contracts can be legal contracts? So there are already moves afoot to make sure. There's all sorts of stuff that we could go through. I mean, an NFT can represent, it can be a title deed. So you start looking at the digital title deeds for absolutely anything and attaching metadata to those. An NFT could be a document. I mean, we're seeing things in finance around invoice discounting even, or grants being NFTs. And these are either working already or are in proof of concept in everywhere from Thailand to New York. So there are anything that has that. If you step right back to the properties of it and say, is it something that's unique? Do I want to trace its chain of custody and the transactions that have occurred around it? Then possibly you are looking at that. Now, do a lot of people need to see this? Do they need to be able to trust the system, not the individual, to verify it? That's when you start to think, actually, is there an application here for an NFT or a blockchain or a distributed ledger? Yeah. So it's working out where's the problem? And is this one of the tools that could solve it?